You are banned from seeing Grandpa. The doctor says your energy is making his dementia worse. My mother whispered the order in the corner of the ballroom, smiling like she was giving me a compliment. I looked at her, then at my sister Jade laughing across the room in a $40,000 dress paid for by a senile old man. It clicked instantly. They were not protecting his health. They were hiding his symptoms from the only person in the room who knows what a drug overdose actually looks like. I forced my pulse to slow down. I nodded, turned, and walked out without a word. But my hand was already in my pocket, gripping the heavy brass house key they thought I lost 3 years ago. I drove around the block once, killed the headlights, and parked 3 houses down. My mother thought dismissing me was the end of the conversation. She forgot that I have spent the last 7 years working night shifts in an I.C.U. I know how to wait in the dark until the patient is vulnerable. I watched the house from my dashboard. Through the bay windows, I saw the silhouettes of the rehearsal dinner guests raising their glasses. The toasts had started. Perfect. While everyone was focused on the bride, nobody was watching the perimeter. I slipped through the side gate, the wet grass silencing my footsteps. The heavy brass key slid into the mudroom lock with a soft click. I stepped inside and closed the door just as the applause erupted in the other room. The house smelled like expensive catering and old dust. I moved toward the hallway, keeping to the shadows of the floorboards I knew did not creak. Footsteps clicked on the hardwood, fast, impatient. I stepped backward into the coat closet and pulled the door shut until only a sliver of light remained. Through the crack, I saw my sister, Jade. She was pacing, typing furiously on her phone, her other hand adjusting a diamond earring that cost more than my car. No. Tell the florist lilies are non-negotiable, she hissed into the phone. I don't care if they are out of season. Fix it. She walked past me, leaving a trail of Chanel No. 5 that made my eyes water. She was planning a pageant while our grandfather rotted in the back room. When the bathroom door clicked shut, I moved. Grandpa Henry's door was at the end of the hall, closed like a tomb. I turned the handle and slipped inside. The smell hit me instantly. Stale air, unwashed sheets, and the cloying, artificial scent of lavender air freshener sprayed too heavily to cover the odor of neglect. Henry was a lump under the quilt. I approached the bed and placed 2 fingers on his wrist. His skin was paper-thin and cold. Pulse 48. Respirations shallow, 8 breaths a minute. I lifted his eyelid. The pupil was sluggish, barely reacting to the ambient light. This was not dementia. Dementia is a slow erosion. This was a chemical shutdown. The memory hit me like a physical blow. 2 weeks ago, I had watched Rebecca feed him breakfast. She sat on the edge of this same bed, smiling that beatific, martyr smile she saves for audiences. Open wide, Dad, she had cooed, spooning oatmeal into his mouth. I watched her crush 2 white pills into the bowl beforehand. When the neighbor, Mrs. Gable, stopped by later, Rebecca wiped a fake tear and sighed. It is so hard watching him fade. He is just gone. Mrs. Gable had patted her hand, calling her a saint. I had suspected then, but now, with his pulse thready under my fingers, I knew. She was not caring for a dying man. She was manufacturing one. I moved to the vanity table Rebecca had set up in the corner. It was cluttered with natural remedies, her way of avoiding a paper trail of prescriptions. I picked up a bottle labeled Cognitive Support. Herbal Blend. I shook it. The rattle was wrong. Too sharp. I unscrewed the cap and dumped a few pills into my palm. They were not brown herbal capsules. They were small, white, round tablets, with a distinct score line down the middle. I brought one to my nose. It did not smell like earth or roots. It smelled like chalk and binding agents. I recognized the shape instantly from the pharmacy card at work. Lorazepam. High dose. A benzodiazepine that, when given to the elderly in this quantity, mimics late-stage cognitive failure perfectly. They were not just stealing his money. They were stealing his mind to do it. I poured the pills back into the bottle and placed it exactly where I found it. My hand was steady, but my blood was freezing over. I took one photo of the bottle, one photo of the patient monitor I had brought from my bag showing his vitals, and slipped out the way I came. They wanted a diagnosis? I just found it. I returned to the house at 8 in the morning. I expected a locked door or a fight. Instead, I walked into a performance. Rebecca and Jade were waiting for me at the kitchen island. The counter was covered in legal documents, brochures for assisted living facilities, and a half-eaten tray of croissants. My mother looked up, her eyes rimmed with red makeup applied carefully to simulate a sleepless night. "Thank God you are here," she said, her voice trembling. "It is worse than we thought. He attacked me this morning, Selena. He threw a vase. He didn't even know who I was." I looked at the spotless floor where a shattered vase should have been. I looked at her arms, free of any defensive bruises. She was lying. She was building the narrative of a violent, uncontrollable decline to justify locking him away. It was terrifying, Jade added. She was leaning against the granite counter, scrolling on her phone, looking bored. Mom is unsafe here. We have to do something. We are doing something, Rebecca said, sliding a thick stack of papers toward me. I have spoken to Judge Miller's clerk. We are filing for emergency conservatorship today. It is the only way to manage his episodes. I glanced at the paperwork. It was not just custody forms. On top of the stack was a loan application. Expedited HELOC. Home equity line of credit. They were not just taking control of his body. They were liquidating the roof over his head. Why do you need a line of credit? I asked, keeping my voice flat. Grandpa has a pension. He has savings. His care is going to be expensive, Rebecca snapped, the grieving daughter mask slipping for a second. Memory care units require huge deposits. We need liquidity now. It is for him. Selena. For him. I repeated. Obviously. Jade sighed. She turned her head to check her profile in the microwave reflection. And the light caught it. A diamond drop earring. Vintage cut. Platinum setting. I recognized them immediately. They were Grandma's. Grandpa kept them in the wall safe in his study, intending to give them to his future granddaughter-in-law, whoever that might be. Jade was wearing them to a Tuesday morning ambush. Nice earrings, I said. Jade touched her earlobe, smiling. Grandpa gave them to me yesterday. In a lucid moment. He wanted me to have them for the wedding. Said he wanted to see me shine. The lie was so bold it almost impressed me. Yesterday, he was comatose on 80 milligrams of lorazepam. He could not lift a spoon, let alone open a combination safe. They had cracked it while he was unconscious. They were looting the house before the body was even cold. You are lying, I said. God, you are so jealous, Jade spat, her face twisting. You can't stand that he loves me more, can you? You can't stand that I am getting married, and you are just alone. Stop it, Rebecca intervened, but her eyes were cold. Selena, your paranoia is exactly why we need this conservatorship. You aren't thinking clearly. You are obsessed with conspiracies while I am trying to save my father. The wedding vendors need final payments by Friday, and if we don't secure this loan, the stress. She cut herself off. She had slipped. The wedding vendors. I looked at the calendar on the fridge. Friday. 3 days. That was the deadline. They needed the conservatorship signed, the house leveraged, and the cash in hand within 72 hours to pay for Jade's dream reception. That was why the dosage was so high. They needed him incapacitated quickly. You need me to sign off on this, I realized. The court will not grant emergency powers over a veteran without family consensus. We don't need you, Rebecca said, her voice sharpening to a blade. But if you contest it, you will drag this out, and the delay will force us to put him in a state facility. Is that what you want? To rot in a state ward because you are stubborn? She leaned over the table, placing her hand on mine. Her skin was warm, but her touch felt like ice. Sign the support affidavit. Let us take care of the money, or you can explain to everyone why you let your grandfather suffer. I looked at Jade, preening in stolen diamonds. I looked at Rebecca, willing to mortgage her father's dignity for a party. Rage, hot and blinding, surged up my throat. I wanted to flip the table. I wanted to smash the stolen earrings out of Jade's lobes. But I forced my pulse down. Code Blue protocol. Panic kills the patient. Strategy saves him. If I fought them now, they would lock me out, call the police, and find another doctor to rubber stamp the paperwork. I needed time. I needed them to think they had won. I pulled my hand away. I need to think, I said. Give me 48 hours. Friday morning, Rebecca commanded. We sign Friday morning. Or I call the state. I looked at my mother and forced my shoulders to slump. It was a posture I had learned from years of watching patients surrender to bad diagnoses. Okay, I said, my voice barely a whisper. You win. I can't fight you on this. He needs professional help. I will sign the papers on Friday. Rebecca let out a breath she had been holding, her face relaxing into a triumphant smirk. I knew you would be reasonable, she said, patting my cheek. It is for the best, Selena. We are saving him. I need to go to work, I lied. I will see you Friday. I walked out of the house, got into my car, and drove straight to the pharmacy on 4th Street. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. They thought they had broken me. They did not know that in the ER, we call this the lucid interval, the calm before the crash. I was not retreating. I was prepping the O.R. I marched down the supplement aisle. I did not need a prescription. I needed a decoy. I scanned the shelves until I found it. Nature's Sleep Melatonin. 3 milligrams. Small, round, white tablets. I shook the bottle. It rattled with the exact same pitch as the lorazepam. I bought 2 bottles and a roll of heavy-duty double-sided tape. Next stop, an electronics store. I bought a nanny cam, the kind designed to look like a USB wall charger. No hacking, no complex wiring. Just plug and play. Simple, reliable. I parked down the street from the house and waited. At 10 a.m., the garage door opened. Rebecca's Lexus pulled out, heading toward her Pilates studio. Jade followed in her convertible, probably off to terrorize another florist. The house was empty. I let myself back in. The silence inside was heavy, suffocating. I moved fast. Efficiency is the only thing that matters in a crisis. I went straight to the study where Grandpa kept his war histories. I found an outlet behind a stack of encyclopedias, perfect vantage point, covering the bed and the vanity table. I plugged in the charger camera. A tiny blue light blinked once, then vanished. The room was now a witness. Then, the main event. I went to the vanity. I picked up the bottle of herbal support. My hand did not shake. I walked to the bathroom and dumped the entire contents into the toilet. 80 milligrams of chemical restraint swirled in the bowl. I flushed. The sound of the water rushing away was the most satisfying sound I had heard in years. I opened the melatonin bottles and poured the harmless sugar pills into the herbal container. They looked identical. Unless Rebecca was a pharmacist, she would not know the difference. I screwed the cap back on and placed the bottle exactly where I found it, aligning the label with the dust ring on the table. I walked over to Grandpa. He was still deep under, his breathing heavy and wet. I smoothed the hair back from his forehead. "Hold on, soldier," I whispered. "Reinforcements are here." I left the house without leaving a trace. No footprints, no moved furniture. Just a camera watching and a bottle of pills that would no longer keep him quiet. The detox had begun. Now, I just had to wait for the fog to lift. 48 hours later, at 3:14 a.m., the texture of the silence in the room changed. It stopped feeling heavy and suffocating. It felt expectant. I was dozing in the armchair, keeping my vigil, when a hand touched my wrist. It was not the flailing, uncoordinated groping of a sedated patient. It was a grip. Weak, shaking, but intentional. I opened my eyes. Grandpa Henry was looking at me. For the first time in 6 months, he was not looking through me. He was looking at me. The glazed, milky film was gone from his irises. His pupils were small, sharp, and reactive to the dim lamplight. The melatonin had done its job. The chemical fog had burned off, leaving the man underneath exposed and raw. "Selena?" he rasped. His voice sounded like grinding stones. I grabbed the cup of water and held the straw to his lips. He drank greedily, coughing once, then leaned back against the pillows. He looked around the room at the vanity, the locked door, the shadows. Then he looked back at me, and the intelligence in his eyes broke my heart. "Why is the door locked?" he asked. "Because we are at war, Grandpa," I whispered. He studied my face. He is a veteran of 2 foreign conflicts. He knows what a perimeter breach looks like. "The oatmeal," he said. It was not a question. It tasted bitter. Every morning. Then, nothing. Just dark. "She was drugging you," I said. I did not sugarcoat it. "You do not lie to a soldier. Rebecca. She has been crushing lorazepam into your food. 80 milligrams a day. Enough to knock out a horse. She wanted everyone to think you had dementia." The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush bones. This is the part of the story nobody talks about. The moment the victim realizes the weapon was held by someone they carried on their shoulders. As a child, Henry stared at the ceiling. A single tear leaked from the corner of his eye and tracked into his ear. He did not wipe it away. "My own daughter," he whispered. "For money?" "For Jade's wedding," I said. "They are filing for conservatorship tomorrow. They want to liquidate the house." He closed his eyes. His chest heaved, a ragged intake of breath that sounded like a sob. But when he opened his eyes again, the grief was gone. In its place was something cold and hard. Iron. The man who had survived jungles and mortars was back. "She thinks I am gone," he said. "She thinks you are a vegetable," I confirmed. "And tomorrow morning, a court evaluator is coming here to prove it. If you pass that test, they lose. But if they know you are awake before the evaluator gets here, they will cancel. They will find another way." He turned his head and looked at the vanity table where the swapped pills sat. He looked at the nanny cam blinking silently in the bookshelf. He understood the mission without me having to explain it. "I have to play dead," he said. "One more day," I pleaded, squeezing his hand. "You have to let them think they have won. You have to let Rebecca talk over you. You have to let Jade ignore you. You have to lie there and take it until the evaluator is standing right beside you. Can you do that? He squeezed my hand back. His grip was surprisingly strong. I once lay in a muddy trench for 3 days waiting for a sniper to show his position, he said. His voice was dry, brittle, and absolutely lethal. I can wait for my daughter to show hers. He let go of my hand and settled back into the pillows, arranging his limbs into the posture of the invalid. He practiced a slack-jawed stare. It was terrifying how easily he slipped back into the mask. But now I knew what was behind it. Get some sleep, Selena, he said, staring blankly at the wall. We have a show to put on. At 10 a.m. The doorbell rang. I was standing in the shadows of the hallway, clutching a file folder that contained my entire case. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my hands were steady. I watched through the crack in the door as Rebecca opened it, beaming like she had just won the lottery. Welcome, she trilled. Please, come in. We are so grateful you could make time for us on such short notice. A woman in a sharp gray suit stepped in first. Mrs. Thorne, the notary public. Behind her was Dr. Evans, the court-appointed capacity evaluator. He looked tired, carrying a thick briefcase. Mrs. Calder, Dr. Evans said, polite but distant. We are here to assess Mr. Henry for the emergency conservatorship petition. Is the patient ready? Oh, he is ready, Rebecca sighed, her face falling into a mask of tragic concern. Though I must warn you, he is having a very bad day. He does not know where he is. He does not even know his own name half the time. It is heartbreaking. Jade was lounging on the sofa, scrolling on her phone. She barely looked up. Just get it over with so we can get the funds released, she muttered, checking her manicure. I stepped out from the hallway. Actually, I said, my voice cutting through the performance, I think you will find he is quite lucid. Rebecca spun around, eyes wide. Selena? What are you doing here? You said you'd sign later. I changed my mind, I said, stepping past her to the bedroom door. I wanted to be sure everything was handled properly. She forced a smile in front of the officials. Of course. We're all here for Dad. But don't get your hopes up you saw him yesterday. He's gone. Then she turned briskly to the doctor. Shall we? Henry lay motionless on the bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Rebecca leaned close and pinched his arm hard. He didn't react. Satisfied. She faced the evaluator. Comatose. No response to stimuli. We need to take over his affairs immediately. Dr. Evans stepped forward. Mr. Henry? Can you hear me? Nothing. Rebecca smirked. Just sign. Wait, I said. She glared, but I leaned toward the bed. Grandpa, it's time. As the doctor lifted Henry's eyelid with a penlight, the room hummed with silence. Then Henry's hand snapped up and clamped around the doctor's wrist. He hauled himself upright, eyes suddenly sharp. I hear you just fine, he growled. My name is Henry Arthur Vance. Today is Thursday, October 12th, and I know exactly why I've been unconscious. Rebecca froze. Dad, she's been drugging me, Henry said calmly. Lorazepam. Crushed into my oatmeal. My granddaughter flushed it 2 days ago, Jade screamed. He's lying. I have proof, I said, holding up my iPad. The nanny cam footage played Rebecca, crushing pills at the vanity. Dr. Evans stared. The notary covered her mouth. That's a controlled substance, I said. Administered without consent for financial gain. I swiped to the HELOC paperwork for Jade's wedding. The wedding is off, Henry said. There will be no loan, no conservatorship, no inheritance. Dr. Evans snapped his pen shut. This evaluation is terminated. You attempted fraud. Rebecca's mask shattered. She didn't beg, she detonated. Screaming, she clawed her own face, ripped open her blouse, and dialed 911. My daughter's attacking me. She's hurting my father. The notary bolted. The doctor followed. Stop, I said, locking the door. You're mandated reporters. Sit down. Dr. Evans hesitated, then called authorities himself. Rebecca hissed at me. It's your word against mine. I raised my phone. Actually, I'm live streaming this. My lawyer already has the footage. Her phone slipped from her hand. 4 minutes later, police arrived. My mother was cuffed. Jade collapsed, crying over her canceled wedding. 3 weeks have passed. Jade fled out of state. Rebecca waits for trial in a motel. The neighborhood stopped calling her a saint. Henry sits on the porch now, steady and clear-eyed. You saved my life, he told me. I just did my job. No, he said. You had the courage to cut out the rot. I left for work without taking a dime. Integrity isn't peacekeeping. Sometimes love is a warm meal. Sometimes it's a locked door. A hidden camera. And the nerve to call poison by its real name. Don't let them rewrite your reality. Trust your gut. And when the truth shows itself, don't look away.